I'm Dylan.
I'm Kiyan.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we hire terrible advisors. Again. Because this week we watched The Monster of Peladon.
Written by Brian Hayles.
Directed by Lenny Main.
And aired in March and April of 1974.
So before we watched this serial, I had heard this serial was pretty bad, and just gonna say it lived up to the hype, I guess. And that's a weird way to say that. Maybe we lived down to the hype.
I don't know. I thought a lot of the elements of this serial were good on paper. Like, if I had someone describe this to me, I would think, like, okay, yeah, that would probably be pretty enjoyable to watch. But I was just so bored by this serial, and I don't exactly know why.
Because it just had horrendously poor execution, horribly out-of-character moments for both the Doctor and Sarah, and everybody just seems to flip allegiances at will.
At least it had Alpha Centuri.
The saving grace of the serial, which takes it from the Massacre level bad to just bad.
I wouldn't even put it on par with Massacre or, like,
No, it's not on par with Massacre, because of Alpha
Menace.
Centuri. If the serial didn't have Alpha Centuri, it would be on par with Massacre.
Maybe not Massacre, maybe Space Pirates and Underwater Menace. But, yeah, either way, before this serial aired, actually, this aired in March and April, but in February, they actually announced the fourth Doctor, we just learned.
Yeah, as we were reading information on this serial, because during the production of Death to the Daleks and the production of this, they were looking for a new actor to play the Doctor, and apparently they were considering an older actor and kind of returning to that William Hartnell kind of vibe. But then Barry Letts received a letter from Tom Baker. It was like, hey, I'm an actor who's kind of down and out on his luck right now. I'm working as a construction laborer because I can't get a job as an actor. So they kind of watched some things with Baker, and then they hired him and announced him to the world. And he signed a contract for 1 season.
And stayed on for much, much longer.
Yeah, he stayed on for 7 seasons.
Right, but this serial, unfortunately, we had to get through before we get to the fourth Doctor. So, it starts off with some miners on Peladon. Yeah.
Yeah, getting killed
Return
by
to Peladon.
an Agador.
Isn't there only one Agador left, so it's just Agador?
Well, the Agador image.
Yeah.
It's an Agador image. An Agador.
And also Agador. Right, and overall, this serial just made me realize how much I don't want them to go back to Peladon ever again. Because really, it's not that interesting. I mean, I liked Curse of Peladon, you know, that was sort of a fast-paced and interesting serial, but I liked it because this serial also played with your expectations, but that one did too, you know, with the Ice Warriors and the whole intrigue with the ambassadors and everything, but this was kind of just...
So after some miners kind of get killed,
operating heavy machinery, we might add, because that comes into play
briefly
in dialogue, and then like not anywhere else except that one scene.
The Doctor and Sarah show up, and Sarah's like, "Oh great, another dusty cave." The Doctor's like, "I've been meaning to pay a visit to Peladon for a while now. Just be quiet, Sarah. We're gonna go visit King Peladon."
Right, obviously they reused all the sets, which might have been why the costumes in this serial were pretty good. I mean, not like the best, but...
Well, they got the same costume designer as Curse of Peladon, and the same director, and basically the same entire team, because they wanted to get the whole same serial together.
Which also might be kind of why it feels almost like Curse of Peladon 2.0. and why Ortron is pretty much Hepesh 2.0, and why what's her name is almost Peladon 2.0.
Well, she's Peladon's daughter, so she gets genetic pause. Ortron has no excuse.
Well, he looks kind of like Hepesh, so he also gets genetic coincidence pass, so... And Agador comes back An Alpha Centuri comes back, so they get literally
goodness
same
for that.
person pass. Right, but the like, I didn't realize this until right now, actually, but like Curse of Peladon, the Doctor and his companion are taken in by guards. The first instance they get seen.
Yep.
And they're brought into the throne room, which was the only thing that looks different in this serial. I mean, did it look different to you?
No, it looks pretty much the same to me.
Maybe it was just because they used different angles, I want to say. I don't know. It just looked a little different to me. And they find out that this is however many years after Curse of Peladon.
50, I think.
50? Yeah, they said 50, but I was like, well, those aren't really Earth years, so who knows how long it is. And Peladon is long dead.
Yeah, King Peladon, not Planet Peladon, but the king. Jeez. Yeah, he's dead. His daughter has taken the throne.
Thalira.
Which becomes a minor plot point later because she's all, I only got the throne because Peladon didn't have a son. Serial. That scene with Sarah Jane, though. So the Doctor is trying to convince Thalira that he's an old friend of Peladon and that he's the Doctor of legend.
Right. 50 years ago.
And obviously no one believes him until Alpha Centuri conveniently kind of walks in and is like, oh, Doctor, how good to see you. And the Doctor's like, Alpha Centuri, good of you to show up. I'm about to be executed. Can you, please tell them I'm the Doctor?
Yeah, so Alpha Centuri kind of explains what's going on. The miners, who are also sort of in the presence of the Queen, and Ortron, who is essentially Hepesh, aren't too convinced, but they go along with it anyway. And the Doctor and Sarah talk with Alpha Centuri for a bit and find out what's going on.
Yeah, and they find out the miners have been refusing to use the high-tech equipment that the Federation has been bringing in.
Right, the Sonic Lance.
And the Federation is on Peladon because they're mining trisilicate as part of the treaty that the Peladonians made with the Federation when they joined, I guess, following Curse of Peladon.
Right. And the Doctor and Sarah meet Eckersley, who you don't find out that he's from Earth for a while, but he's from Earth. He's human. He's not
right. He's
phallic-shaped like Alpha. I'm just going to call her Alpha from now on.
He's from the Federation, and he's, I guess, the mining technician, so the Doctor convinces Thalira and Ortron to do a demonstration of the sonic lance, and then maybe the miners will see that it's harmless, and then they'll use it. So
meanwhile, the miners are staging a rebellion.
Yeah.
We might want to talk about the miners' design while we talk about...
You mean the multicolored afros?
Yes, and also how all of them looked the same. Yeah, this was some Season 1, 2 level stuff where you just couldn't tell the miners apart because their costumes were exactly the same.
Yeah, their hair was brown with blonde streaks in it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was blonde with brown streaks.
They were zebras. No. There were two main miners, I guess. There was Edis and Gebek.
Right.
And then there were a few other named ones who were not that important, but...
besides Rima, who gets stabbed. Spoiler.
In the back. Literally and figuratively.
Well, so Gebek is kind of the leader of the miners who wants to kind of take everything slow, talk it out with Queen Thalira and Ortron, and kind of come to an agreement. And Edis is like, no, let's attack everything now.
Yeah, Edis is pretty trigger happy.
So, there's kind of that going on, and then... So they use the sonic lance, the Doctor goes down with Blore, the Queen's champion, I guess replacing, what's his name, who the Doctor defeated in Curse of Peladon.
Yeah, what was his name?
Who dies at the end, whose noble sacrifice for not remembering. So they go into the caves, and the Agador appearance shows up and kills Blore. So...
And someone else, I think a miner or someone.
Yeah, who I just apparently labeled as assistant.
There were, what, 40 deaths in this serial?
Yeah, there were 40 people who died in this serial.
God, and a letter.
Yeah.
On our death count. Letters are uncountable deaths on the death count, in case you didn't know.
So part 2 begins where part 1 left off with the Doctor and Blore.
Oh, we're actually calling it part 2 instead of episode, because they're parts now.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Blore dies. The Doctor's like, oh no, and
We'll never forget you, Blore. Just kidding, we'll probably forget you, like, in 5 minutes.
The Doctor is kind of trapped now because the appearance of Agador's caused the cave-in, blocking the Doctor's entrance, and also Gebek hears that Edis decided to detonate the wall behind the Doctor and Blore to sacrifice them to Agador. So Gebek has a moment where he's like, the Doctor saved my life, I owe him my life, come on, men. And they rescue him. There's not much more to say about that. They kind of move all the rocks out of the way and rescue him. Actually, no, they use the sonic lawns to rescue him. And yeah, that's all that really happens in episode 2, actually. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, the serial was really slow moving. Curse of Peladon was really political, but at the same time I think it was interesting because there was always something going on. Something more than just...
This one is political. It's just, instead of integrating the politics into the plot, it decided to just have scenes where it decided to beat you over the head with its political message. We forgot to mention in the first episode when Sarah shows up, Alpha Centuri, for some reason, is just really sexist towards Sarah's like, oh, you're a woman, you don't need to do anything, we'll just let the Doctor do everything.
I think it's trying to understand genders and not succeeding because it doesn't have a gender.
Doesn't Ortron and
they call it him probably just for sake of convenience.
Yeah, there's someone who there's someone else who's like, oh, Sarah, just a woman, you can just hang out. Like,
yeah, I think that was Ortron.
Yeah. Like, what? That sexist subplot gets dropped about halfway through episode 3.
Well, it's touched upon once, poorly. And there were a lot of dropped subplots in the serial, like the subplot about Alpha Centauri being insecure about its non-human appearance. You know, that was touched upon in one line in, I think, episode 1, and then never developed. So
yeah,
there you go.
When she talks to Sarah, and is like, oh, my appearance makes... Oh, wait, no, hang on. Oh, no, my appearance makes some people uncomfortable. So...
Hey, at least Alpha Centauri was just a joy to watch, mostly because of its acting. So, mostly because of... who was it? Yasan?
It's the same guy as Curse of Peladon.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a woman doing the voice, and then someone else in the...
Some guy doing
the motion.
Suit, I think. Alpha got a new cloak this serial, actually. We were mentioning Curse of Peladon. Alpha originally got the cloak to cover up the fact that she was blatantly a phallic shape. But the yellow coat has been replaced with a green one for this serial.
It's yellowish green. It's still vaguely the same.
Yeah, they specifically changed it, I think, to indicate that Alpha was an ambassador from the Federation to Peladon now, and not just kind of a delegate of the Federation.
Interesting.
So I think Ortron is convinced Thelura at this point that the Doctor is working with the rebel minor people, and at the same time, Edis has taken all the miners and they decide to stage an attack on the armory. So they attack the armory, and the Edis goes to the control room and assaults the control room and tries to get Edis to open the armory. And something happens and it doesn't work. I don't remember what.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Sarah is hanging out down in the mines a little bit and comes across something strange.
Oh, yeah, the refinery scene that doesn't get pay off until episode 3's conclusion.
Right, she sees someone in the control room who's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, in the refinery control room, which distinction from the other control room that controls the alarm system, I guess?
I don't know. It's just... this serial did a very poor job. Oh yeah, when I said this serial was political earlier, I didn't mean like it's political, it's real world political message. I mean like it's actual fictional politics, and Curse of Peladon was too, but this was just drawn out and slow moving, whereas Curse of Peladon was sort of fast paced and kept you interested with the murder and everything.
Murder.
Well, the attempted
and intrigue. So the Doctor now has been captured by Ortron and Thalira. Well, by Ortron, not Thalira, because Thalira's kind of
a figurehead.
Again, she's kind of a puppet government.
Well, Ortron is trying to seize power, but you can vaguely, I guess, see that he still has respect for the Queen somewhat, and then that comes into play a little bit later. Well, it comes into play a lot.
It still just feels
later.
like he randomly switches allegiance later, but we'll get there. So Ortron captures the Doctor and Sarah.
It was, if I can't be in charge of Peladon, no one can, but...
The Doctor and Sarah are in the temple, and they get thrown into a pit.
Right, they get thrown into the
pit of Agdor. I mean, they don't call it that, but that's what it was.
I was
the
gonna
sacrificial pit.
I was gonna say the Sarlacc, but but no, I guess it would be more the monster under Jabba's palace, but whatever. They get thrown in with Agador. Little do they know, Agador and the Doctor are
old pal.
Yeah.
I mean, Agador apparently doesn't seem to remember this until the Doctor
hypnotizes
him with this weird little thing around his neck that he's been wearing for a couple of serials now, but I'm not actually sure what it is.
It's probably something Venusian. He does sing the Venusian lullaby again. I mean, he does sort of hypnotize Agador in the same way he does in Curse of Peladon. Harun. No.
Thalira has heard
the Thalira
that Doctor and Sarah.
It's happening for non-companions now.
Got thrown in the pit, so she kind of busts in on the temple's like, Ortron, you've overstepped your bounds.
And Ortron's like, what are you gonna do about it, Thalira?
And she's like, you're not allowed to make any more orders, Ortron. Also, get them out of that pit before they die. So, after they get out, the Doctor talks with Thalira, and he tells her that Gebek is a rational-headed guy, and she should meet with him and have some talks about what the miners' grievances are and see if they can kind of work something out, you know?
Before Edis's plans have everything go up in smoke, I don't know.
And then as they're leaving, the Doctor's like, why don't you stay here, Sarah? You may have some things to tell the Queen. And she's like, what? Oh! And then...
How she knew what he was talking about, I don't know.
The least graceful political scene ever, where the Queen and Sarah talking, and she's like, but I'm only a girl. And Sarah's like, there's nothing only about being a girl, Thalira. Assert your dominance.
And then instead of integrating the I guess nowadays it would be called feminism, but back then it was women's lib. Instead of inserting that into the plot, they just kind of explain what it is. They just have Sarah flat out just tell her what it is. And, this serial did a pretty bad job integrating its message into the plot, not only with this, also with the whole, the colonialism thing. Like, we have, like, as long as you show the people being colonized that the new technology is good, they'll go along with it.
Also, that was, in episode 5, where I just wrote down exposition by talking, because they skipped over a couple scenes, and then they gave all the exposition by Sarah running between everyone in the throne room, telling them what's going on.
So it was. There was also the scene in episode 4, which I guess if you maybe this was if you were just jumping on in 4, or if you just completely weren't following it because of how flat out boring it was. They had the scene with Azek Seer explaining literally the entire plot of the serial so far in 20 seconds.
We should have just used that sound clip as a whole podcast episode. Just Azek Seer explaining the plot for 20 seconds and just be done with it.
Hey, I mean, if you're going to watch this serial, I honestly recommend jumping on in 4, because Azek Seer just sums up everything right then and there. You don't have to force yourself through 1, 2, and 3.
So after Sarah decides to beat Thalira over the head with some feminist messages,
There's also more beating over the head in this serial. in a more literal sense.
A lot of beating over the head. So she's like, okay, cool. Bye, Thalira.
And then that's never touched upon again.
Yeah, pretty much. They bring it up for once.
Briefly.
Not only that, but all like blatant sexism towards Sarah Jane is just all dropped now.
Yeah, she sort of just brushes it off, I guess. Despite how vehement she was about women's lib/feminism here, she sort of just...
Yes, as soon as she brings it up to the queen, everybody apparently just stops
caring.
Yeah. So, that's a thing. Or it's not anymore.
They had time to expand upon this. If episode 6 is any indication, they had at least 15 minutes to work with this. But no, they just decided to pull something randomly out of the blue at the end of this serial.
So, part 3 continues with Eckersley sets up the sonic launch to be used because he's like, if the miners aren't gonna mine, we'll just bring in some Federation miners. It'll be fine.
Meanwhile, Alpha Centauri is... Alpha Centauri actually calls the Federation miners, and then it realizes that, oh no, that's a terrible mistake, because the Federation is just gonna make everything worse. So, but when you hear it radio the Federation, you blatantly know who they're sending in from the Federation.
It's the Ice Warriors.
Right, you hear their voices over the radio, and then the reveal, quote-unquote reveal, at the end of episode 3 is the Ice Warriors showing up, as if you couldn't see it coming just from the voices.
Right,
God.
Before we get there, the Doctor and Sarah go to the communication room, and the Doctor's gotta go... I forget where the Doctor wants to go, but he's not allowed to go there because Ortron thinks he's all shady. Oh, he wants to go meet with the miners again. And Ortron's like, I don't believe you, and throws the Doctor in the dungeon.
Well, he thinks he's in league with the miners, so he thinks they're plotting something.
Yeah, so he throws the Doctor in the dungeon, and I think Gebek and Sarah help the Doctor escape.
Yeah, Gebek helps him escape eventually.
And then the Doctor and Gebek open up the refinery, while Sarah Jane, I guess, is just chilling in the control room like she does for most of the serial.
Yeah, again, despite how she's like, oh yeah, we have to take action since we're women, no, she kind of falls off the map for a little bit. She comes back in the end. It's fine. Sarah's one of my favorite companions so far, and she's doing more than Joe did, so there we go.
She's the season 10 Joe. But
better.
Then, oh, right, so... the reveal with the Ice Warriors, and the Doctor's like, what?
Like you couldn't see it coming.
What are you doing here? I mean, every story Brian Hayles has written also has the Ice Warriors in, so...
This serial... Well, episode 4 is where this serial started playing with your expectations a little bit. Not only your expectations based on... Well, no, mostly your expectations based on Curse of Peladon, but maybe that was just me.
So... The Ice Warrior takes the Doctor and Gebek prisoner, obviously.
Yeah, this is where Azek Seer is the Ice Warrior commander, and this is where, right at the beginning of 4, he just explains the plot. He's like, so let me get this straight. Explain plot, explain plot, explain plot, and the Doctor's like, pretty good summary of what's going on here.
So... They kind of all have a meeting in the throne room where, they basically just cover the plot so far, and then Azixier's like, okay, well, I'm declaring martial law, and you guys all are under my command now. And then Ortron decides to flip allegiances and just joins with the Queen and the miners, I might add.
Yeah, the appearance of an outside party has all the warring factions on Peladon just join forces.
Which...
makes sense.
But was executed horrendously.
Well, it happens in like 0.5 seconds, but it makes sense. To me, at least.
Why it is executed horrendously. You'd think they could at least take some time to have discussions between the parties and have them kind of work through their grievances instead of just being like, okay, we're buddies now.
Nope. Instead, you get this. And again, they had time. But instead, they just had the Queen get kidnapped at the end.
Before we continue, can we talk about the Queen's hair?
Well, I thought the costumes in this serial were probably I thought they were good, but it's probably because they reused the set from Curse of Peladon.
Well, I liked the Queen's costume, except for her hair, which was just really confusing for me, because I guess she had blonde hair, but, like, the top was dyed gray.
Yeah, I guess they're called Pels. All the Pels have really...
Peladonians.
No, I'm pretty sure they're called
the
Pels.
miners are called Pels. There's
Isn't Pel just like...
They touched on they touched on this at the beginning and dropped it, about how there's the noble class under the lead of Ortron. Then there's the miners are like a lower subclass.
Huh.
They just dropped that plot though, so...
Well, they bring it up... They have one line about it at the end. One line. Anyway, all the characters here from Peladon, whatever they're called, are... They have multicolored hair. Like, the miners have the white streak, and then Ortron, like Hepesh and Peladon, and that other guy who died right at the beginning of Curse of Peladon, have that red streak, and then Thalira has the white streak or whatever it is.
Well, it looked okay when she was wearing the crown, I guess, because the crown kind of lined the gray area, so it looked okay. But like during, I think, episode 5, when she was captured and she didn't have the crown on.
Yeah.
For some reason, and you could like see the division between the white and then blonde, and it looked really weird for some reason.
I thought it looked okay. I liked the costumes in the serial. If
she had an awesome costume though.
Yeah.
That cloak or the cape.
Yeah, I liked Ortron's too. I liked the miners, but they just looked too similar to each other. Sometimes it was hard to differentiate between Gebek and Edis and Rima.
The Doctor also has a different costume in the serial. He's wearing a green coat again, but not the one he's worn before. This one's a lot deeper green. I'm just gonna say it's my favorite coat he's worn so far, just because it's my favorite color. I'm just gonna nothing can top it, because this is my favorite color. So whatever he wears next week can't possibly top this green coat, unless it is this green coat.
But then it wouldn't top it. It would just be
equal.
Anyway, where even were we?
In episode 4, right after Azixia declares martial law and Alpha Centauri's having a freak-out moment in the communications room because the Ice Warriors have taken over.
Right. We haven't really been touching upon it too much, despite how much we liked it, but Alpha Centauri has just been flustered and getting a lot of scenes during all of this, so that was nice.
And then...
Alpha Centauri should be a companion.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and after this serial, I agree.
Azixia wants to kill the Doctor and Sarah because he thinks they're a liability. Rightfully so, but...
I mean, with the plan he's got going on.
Alpha Centauri and Eckersley, surprisingly given later, convince...
No, unsurprisingly given later, because he wants to... We'll get there.
They convince Azixia not to kill the Doctor because only the Doctor can convince Gebek to get the miners working. I don't know why Ortron or Thalira can't do this, considering they all just became instant friends in the throne room, but you know.
Is this where they find out about Azixir's betrayal? Because I remember they find out right away. They find out soon after.
It was in episode 5. It comes after the Doctor goes to Gebek and tells him to get the miners working. Or it might be just before, because... Oh, it's when they're captured, right before the Doctor goes to see Gebek. Because the Doctor's like, hey, Sarah, did you see that guy in the refinery? And kind of points over to the Ice Warrior guard. And she's like, oh, yeah, for sure. And so the Doctor's like, oh, they must have been here before you called for reinforcements, Alpha. Oh, well, looks like they betrayed the Federation.
Yeah, they're working for Galaxy 5.
Right, we didn't mention this, but there was like one throwaway line at the beginning mentioning that the Federation and Galaxy 5 are at war.
Right. Azixir has betrayed the Federation and I guess wants to turn over the Trisilicate to Galaxy 5. And this is how he's going about it. He's pretending to be a Federation mediator.
They should have brought back Galaxy 4.
Yeah, I think this is what
Galaxy 4.
I think this is what that's supposed to be like a reference to. Like there was Galaxy 4, we saw one planet there, and now this is Galaxy 5. Well, obviously this isn't Galaxy 5. They're at war with Galaxy 5, but there you go.
So the Doctor tells Gebek to get the miners. Well, he goes to Gebek and Thalira and Ortron. Every time Ortron's name was said, I just thought of Ultron. So he goes to them and he says, hey, we gotta get the miners working. Like, our miners will never work for the Ice Warriors. And the doctor's like, well, if we can convince them that you're working, we can, like, come up with a plan or something.
Right. Basically just wants to stall for time, essentially.
So Gebek's like, okay. And then Gebek goes to the miners like, we're gonna help them the same way that we helped Ortron, right, guys? Right?
Yeah!
And then they kind of all catch on. They're like, yeah!
And then
Edis shows up, and he's just basically just gone off the deep end. Rima tries to tell him that Gebek and the Doctor and Thalira have a plan, and Edis is like, no! They've betrayed us. They've gone over to the dark side. They're working with the Queen and the Ice Warriors. I've got the Sonic launch set up on a cliff.
And then Rima's like, you're crazy, Edis. I gotta go tell Gebek about what you're planning. And which was pretty stupid of him considering how Edis is pretty much insane. So Rima turns around and Edis stabs him in the back. Like I said before, literally and figuratively. But he doesn't die yet.
No, he lives just long enough to conveniently give away Gebek's plot, Edis's plot to Gebek. So Edis goes off to the Sonic launch, which, like I mentioned, he has on a cliff, which he has pointed at the Citadel, and he's going to basically blow up the Citadel and everyone in it.
And then, I forget if it was Azexir or someone else, but one of the Ice Warriors reveals that they've sabotaged the Sonic Lance, and the second you try and operate it, it'll explode.
It was Azexir. He revealed it after the Doctor went there, and Sarah Jane was like, he's trying to save your life.
Right,
yo.
They're watching the Doctor and Edis have a sword fight on camera.
Yeah, and the Doctor loses, which is weirdly out of character, because he never loses, except to the Monster. And then the Doctor gets beat up by Edis, which doesn't make any sense.
Well, Edis sort of pulls the trick like, yeah, okay, you won, Doctor, and then he sort of just tackles him.
Doctor has his Venusian Aikido that he didn't use at all during that whole battle that he could have just whipped out. If you're going to establish a Doctor as being a fighter who never loses, don't have him lose in his second-to-last serial.
Say something else about this. Right, the stunt double, I guess, here, his wig didn't come off like it did in Death to the Daleks. You didn't mention that, actually. Did you notice in Death to the Daleks, his wig came off and you could clearly just see his black hair?
Well,
it was right at the beginning.
It's the same stunt double for Tom Baker, I think. I think they just end up dyeing the wig brown. So...
Not surprised. They gotta save on budget somehow.
Edis... Well, the Doctor has found out about Edis's plan. We didn't mention this. The Doctor found out about Edis's plan from Gebek, who found out from Rima, who's currently bleeding out in the mines and
dies off screen.
Oh yeah, Gebek leaves Sarah Jane with Rima and is like, take care of him, okay? And then an Ice Warrior immediately shows up, because at this point they've actually started the revolt, because the Doctor raises the temperature in the mines. The Ice Warriors don't like heat, so they kill some Ice Warriors with some rocks, beat them over the head. We also forgot to mention the successful taking of the armory that happened in like episode 2, where they actually succeeded in taking all the super futuristic weapons from the armory and then didn't use them in episode 6.
Right, there was a lot we forgot to mention, actually, during all of this, and a lot we're going back to mention, mainly because a lot of it wasn't ever touched upon again.
There was, like, no payoff to any of these. Especially the futuristic weapons thing, like, when they storm the Citadel in episode 6, and the guy pulls a sword on Eckersley. What?
Well, that's part of the reason why this serial felt so unsatisfying. Because a lot, like I was saying before, a lot of the concepts and stuff that they tried to do were, pretty cool and could have been done well, but then they just kind of go nowhere with a lot of them.
I think they wanted to do more than they could fit into the serial, and when they kind of started realizing that, instead of just dropping subplots,
maybe it was sort of they focused too much on the minor revolt thing and Azexir's betrayal and all of that, which was the main plot. Mm-hmm. But then they tried to throw in too many subplots, possibly, and didn't really...
it kind of just all fell to pieces. So the Sonic launch, getting back on track, blows up and kills Edis, so that's one threat nullified.
Supposedly also kills the Doctor. Sarah thinks it kills the Doctor.
And now Sarah runs around distraught for an entire episode that the Doctor's dead.
Yeah.
Basically all she does for this whole episode.
Yeah, pretty much.
She kind of hangs out in the control room weeping. So the Doctor's
While
actually not
Alpha
dead.
Centauri also freaks out, but that was just entertaining.
The Doctor's actually not dead. Although I guess there's
Really?
like some added tension that maybe he could be now, because now that they've actually announced the fourth Doctor by this point, everybody
Yeah.
knows he has to be going out.
Yes, actually.
I didn't think that when I was watching it, because I only found out they announced the fourth Doctor before the serial now, like right before we recorded this, so, you know, maybe he does just go out in episode 4, so I guess there's kind of that. But they use the same conceit later in episode 6, but we'll get there. So, the Doctor's not dead, and he escapes and meets up with Gebek again. And Gebek kind of tells him that the air is kind of not circulating anymore, and the Doctor's like, oh, I guess the Ice Warriors turned off the ventilation, because that way if the air all runs out, then you'll all die. Or you'll have to head out of the mines and get shot by Ice Warriors. So, you know, that's a thing.
Alpha Centauri, Thalira, and Ortron have a console.
And Sarah Jane. They're all kind of trapped and thrown in the throne room.
Oh, right, because there's that Ice Warrior outside. That Ice Warrior guard who looks like he doesn't want to be there at all. Looks like he wouldn't even try and stop them if they attempted to escape.
Did you notice the Ice Warrior with the probably lower budget costume with a much wider head and much larger eyes than the other two?
And much lower set eyes.
That look really suspicious next to all the other Ice Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, if that one had just appeared alone, it probably wouldn't have looked too out of place, but it was right next to the other ones, and you could blatantly tell.
So, don't know what happened there. Maybe they just forgot to look at the reference pictures when building another Ice Warrior costume.
Or just ran out of time and or money and just said, this is good enough.
Maybe when it was being printed, the printer jammed and, like, stretched the image. So they're like, this is how it's supposed to look, we'll be fine. And
they're definitely using inkjet printers for this.
What kind of printers existed in the 70s? I don't even think dot matrix printers existed in the 70s.
I don't know what existed in the 70s.
Printer technology. Start a podcast just about printers.
It would be more interesting than watching this serial.
So the Doctor and Gebek decide to head to the refinery to go do something. Actually, I don't really remember why they went to the refinery.
Maybe it was to uncover the plot that they don't know fully about yet. I don't know.
I don't know.
A lot of things in this serial seem to happen for no apparent reason.
Maybe it was because the ventilation controls were in the refinery. That's probably
Maybe they thought, I don't know.
So, and then Sarah Jane, Alpha, Ortron, and Thalira decide to stage an escape attempt. So Thalira faints.
Pretends to faint.
Pretends. Alpha Centauri goes to the Ice Warrior and is like, you must get us medical help now! And
my one of my favorite lines from Alpha Centauri was, oh no, that's spoils something later. Never mind.
Okay, guess we'll
gonna
get
say
there.
it now, but it's later. But
so the Ice Warrior comes in to examine Thalira, and Sarah Jane and Ortron like kind of weakly shove him, and then they're like, run away, and they escape. Except the Ice Warrior stepped on Thalira's
cape,
flamboyantly huge cape. And so Ortron shoves the Ice Warrior off.
She's Syndrome. I'm just kidding.
Or like any superhero in that whole cape scene in that movie. It's like Stratogale.
Right, but Ortron runs back and protects Thalira.
Then gets himself shot.
Yeah, Ortron dies.
Yep, he dies. Rest in peace, Ortron.
I'll never forget you for 10 minutes.
So Thalira gets captured again. Alpha and Sarah Jane run off, and Thalira tells Azixia that they're headed to the mines, and not that they're actually headed to the control room where they're going to activate the general distress beacon to try summon the Federation.
The actual Federation.
Yeah, the real Federation.
Not the Ice Warriors pretending to be the Federation.
We also got the whole subplot where when they learned the Federation troops were coming, that they all were going to pretend like everything was working okay to get them to leave, but then that was kind of just immediately dropped.
Well, I don't think that was immediately dropped. I think the plan just kind of went to hell based on what went on. So I didn't have too much of a problem with that. There was also the briefly touched upon aspect where Azixir wants to go back to the old glory days of the Ice Warriors, where they were evil, marauding villains.
All the seeds of death, I guess.
Yeah. So that's why he's doing all this, apparently.
Wow. Best motivation ever.
I think he also wants to get rich quick off of...
Well, Eckersley does.
Yeah, well...
So...
I was trying not to spoil that, but... It happens soon anyway, so...
Yeah. It's right now, actually, that it's revealed, because the Doctor listens from the outside the refinery, and Sarah Jane has Alpha Centauri get vocals on the security cam inside the control room, so it happens right now.
Yeah, they find out Eckersley is in league with Azixir.
Yep, he's been in league this whole time. It's the only good reveal in the whole serial.
Yeah, I was actually surprised.
Yeah, so was I. But an even better reveal is when the Doctor sticks his head through the door and Sarah Jane sees that he's alive and stops moping around for a bit. It's like, I'm gonna go down there. Genius plan. Genius.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, she gets down there and almost gets killed by an Ice Warrior, but it does provide the convenient distraction for Gebek to beat the Ice Warrior over the head with a rock.
Again.
So that's another Ice Warrior down. They get into the refinery, shut up the door,
bites the dust,
and discover that the Agador apparitions have been controlled from inside the refinery.
Unsurprisingly. The Doctor realized that within the first 5 minutes of showing up, pretty much.
Yeah, well, no one believed him.
But now they can prove it.
Yeah!
As long as the Doctor doesn't get mind-controlled by a weird frequency.
Well, he doesn't. He does get his mind melted by a weird frequency.
Okay, not mind-controlled, but you know what I mean. Mind blasted. I don't know.
Well, Alpha Centauri gets captured, because she stayed behind in the control room and gets captured by Azixir again. Right. And she's like, yeah!
It wants to reveal the plot to Thalira, obviously.
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, Eckersley is totally in on it. Eckersley's all, wait a minute, how did you know? She's like, oh yeah, we totally saw on the camera, Sarah Jane and I. And Azixir's like, Sarah Jane!
Well, Eckersley pretty much tells Alpha that there's nothing it can do, and that it should just go along with it, the plan, because there's literally nothing it can do. And one of my favorite lines from Alpha Centauri during this serial was like, you know what, oh wait, you know what, Eckersley, you're right, and I should just respect your position. You're still a traitor, though. Alpha Centauri bringing the
humor to this tremendously drab serial, which is also brought to you by the color green, like the previous Peladon serial was. How everything is just green.
Well, the Ice Warriors, Alpha Centauri, the
Doctor's coat. The only characters who weren't green were the Peladonians, who were purple.
Yeah, okay. Well, wore purple, and Eckersley was human, which we find out, like, now.
Yeah, he also, like, says really out of context lines like, when this is all over, I'll be ruler of Earth.
Which I guess, thinking back, doesn't imply that he's even from Earth. But, well, I mean, it implies it, but it doesn't explicitly state he's from Earth.
I think he states at some point that he's from Earth. Don't know when, but he does just randomly blurt out, I'm gonna be the ruler of Earth. So, okay,
yeah,
if you want.
Yeah.
So, Azixir sends some Ice Warriors down to the refinery to get the Doctor out, and the Doctor scares them away with Agador, or he kills some of them, actually, with Agador. The Doctor hasn't got himself on the kill count for a while now, but
he does there now. Yeah, he's
looks like the last time he killed something was the Dalek in Planet of the Daleks last season.
Yeah, almost 10 serials ago.
So he's killing them now. He's killing a bunch of Ice Warriors.
Right, he uses the Agador apparition thing, which he's now in control of.
Guess he's desperate or just completely out of character.
Their Doctor has proven that he's not totally averse to killing when he needs to, when he absolutely needs to.
Yeah, but still, he seemed just totally cold and didn't care at all about it in this serial. And he usually at least shows some remorse in having to kill somebody.
Yeah, well, a lot of things in this serial just didn't happen when they should have, so...
There's the Doctor just being out of character again, I guess.
And Sarah, pretty much.
Yeah, this whole serial is kind of just a train wreck. So one of the Ice Warriors escapes. He has a name, something with an S, unsurprisingly.
No, Skell, with 2 S's.
And he makes it back to Azixia and is like, "Sup, Azixia?" And Azixia's like, "Okay, Queen Thalira." No, wait. Okay.
Sup, Azixia. No.
Then Azixia, he's all, "See, the Doctor and Sarah Jane are dead now." And then, Scal, this is the only way we can keep this entertaining. Scal is like, "No, they're not. They scared us away with Agador." So Azixia has a moment and he's like, "Okay, well, this is an issue." And this is into episode 6 now, actually, because the cliffhanger was them busting through the door at the end of episode 5.
Yep.
So Azixia kind of has a moment at this, and he I think he goes down to the mines, but Gebek has also gone into the mines to rally the miners once again, but the Doctor's going to have Agador appear to them and not kill them to show them that he's on their side, but I guess Gebek kind of tells them too early. Then you get like a moment of suspense, like, oh no, is the Agador apparition going to show up or not? And then the Doctor's like, I hope Gebek's timing is right, we're going to go now.
And they see the Agador apparition, they're like, Doctor!
Oh, they're more like, Agador!
Yeah.
So they like, okay, let's storm the Citadel. Don't worry, Agador will fight for us. So he does, actually. The Doctor kills off some Ice Warriors again.
Yeah. So wait, the whole reveal with Agador actually just being an endangered species and not a guardian deity was never revealed from Curse of Peladon? They never made that information public?
I guess not.
Wow.
Wow, Peladon. Just wow.
Just realized that now, actually. Didn't think of that while watching this serial.
So they attack the Citadel, and Azixia takes a bunch of rocks to his body. Skell kills some guys, but then he kind of gets shot from Azixia's gun, I think. And then they kind of beat Azixia to death.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
there are a lot of Ice Warriors and miners who die here that can't be counted.
There's a moment where it looks like Azixia's going to shoot the Queen with his gun while he's dying, but no!
Yeah, he just dies.
He just dies. Then they're all like, okay.
This is kind of where the serial should have ended, and they should have kind of wrapped up some of the plot points that they touched upon earlier, but no. Instead, they just have Eckersley kidnap the Lyra.
Before that happens, we didn't mention that Eckersley has found that the Doctor's in the thing, and he's trying to get the Doctor to stop with his security system that was used on Sarah way back when, briefly, and it's going to melt his mind, apparently. So the Doctor sends Sarah out, I guess, because he knows she's going to die there, but the Doctor's a Time Lord, so he can sustain it more than
something
Sarah.
like that.
This is the only scene that felt in character for the Doctor, like he was going to sacrifice himself to save the planet.
Eh.
Then he looks like he's
just
dead.
ready for the serial to be over at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's gonna make that noble sacrifice, and you're like, oh, there's the Doctor I know. But then it looks like he's dead, and Sarah Jane starts weeping again. So,
Except didn't look like Elizabeth Sladen was weeping; it just looked like she had her head down.
She did cry when she got to the Doctor.
Yeah, well,
anyway, so
I thought she was sleeping actually when she
sees the Doctor on the video screen. Is like, Alpha Centuri comes in. Is like, oh, everything's over. We can all go home now.
Nope.
And Sarah's like, yeah, the Eckersley killed the Doctor, yo. So she goes down to weep over the Doctor's dead body. And the Doctor wakes up and she's like, what the heck, Doctor? Like, you made me think you were dead for that whole time. And the Doctor's all like, oh, chin up, Sarah Jane. Like, you're making people think you would like it better if I was dead, or however he said it.
Yeah, some sort of witty line.
And so they're like, okay, let's go meet with Thalia. And
Turns out she's
Yeah.
being dragged through the mines by Eckersley.
Yeah,
Who
while
wants
this
to-
is going on, there's random cuts to Eckersley and Thalia running through mines.
Right, he kidnaps the queen to use her as a hostage, and he needs to get to his spaceship, which is on the other side of the mountains, so he needs to get through the mines.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work because the Doctor and everyone else intercepts him.
With
and,
Agador.
Yeah, with Agador in tow. The Doctor uses Agador to attack Eckersley. And they both die. Agador and Eckersley both die. I don't know,
I was sad when Agador died. So
Yeah.
was the Doctor. The Doctor looked super crestfallen that Agador had taken it
yeah,
for the team.
And this was actually one of the, not best, I didn't want Agador to die, but this was one of the most interesting parts of this serial because I didn't know, I felt kind of sad and I didn't realize that I was even attached to Agador, but...
The big fluffy little guy. He likes to
You know,
run
it looked
around
almost like, you know that show Alf? With the brown alien from the 80s?
I know
almost,
of it. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, Agador almost looks like Alf to me.
Well, but
It looks more wild boar-ish than Alf. It looks like a cross between Alf and like a wild boar.
he's
essentially.
like a really big fluffy dog that became super attached to the Doctor after Curse of Peladon. And
And then forgot about him.
I guess
I'm just
maybe
kidding.
maybe they don't feed Agador. He was just upset and it's like food. And then Doctor started singing his thing, and then Agador's like, "Hey, what's up, my homeboy?" But the reason they used Agador was because they needed something to sniff out Eckersley because there's so many tunnels that they didn't know which way he would go. So Agador bites the bullet, so to speak, bites the
And
dust.
bites Eckersley's neck. I think.
I don't really know. There's kind of a scuffle, a really poorly coordinated scuffle,
Choreographed.
and they fall down. Eckersley kind of yells for help, and no one helps him. I guess he kind of deserves it, I guess, but still it's kind of out of character for the Doctor not to kind of step in and be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He doesn't deserve to die.
He did it for Edis, but not for Eckersley.
Yeah.
He was in position to. We didn't mention he was in position to kill Edis, and then he just helps him up, and that's when Edis tackles him.
Yeah. So it's another just totally out of character moment for this serial. Just the norm for this serial. And then Thalia is like, I hope you won't go running off like you did last time, Doctor.
But he does. Obviously, she
she
wants
knows.
to make him. I think she wants to make him the new advisor, Chancellor, whatever.
Yeah, apparently the advisor's title is Chancellor, just saying.
And the Doctor says, "No, I can't do that. But I know the perfect person for the job." And I was
Alpha Centauri.
I was hoping he was going to say Alpha Centauri, which, but I guess wouldn't make sense since it's an ambassador. But he says Gebek, and this is where they touch upon again there's not anything only about it because Thalia says, "Oh, but Gebek's only a minor." And Sarah's like, "Well, you should give him a chance."
Because there's nothing only about being a minor, just like how there was nothing only about being a woman. It's like, okay.
Watch Gebek just turn into Hepesh / Ortron
3.0.
Yeah.
I don't think Peladon ever shows up in the TV series. I actually don't know. But it does appear in the audio dramas twice, and the books once.
Yeah, well,
So-
after this serial, I'm not too eager to return to Peladon.
Well, anyway, the Doctor, he said they find his box, and the Doctor's like, "Do you mind if I go check on it, Thalia?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And as they're leaving, she's like, "Goodbye, Doctor," because I guess she knows the Doctor's going to take this opportunity to kind of peace out of Peladon again. So they head to the TARDIS, and just another totally out of character scene where Sarah's like, I wouldn't want to infringe on you becoming Chancellor, like.
I think they were just being snarky.
And then he grabs her ear and is like, "In you go," into the TARDIS. Like, what?
And that's where it ends, thankfully.
Thank God.
Like we were saying, the whole Thalia gets kidnapped thing at the end, which took 10 to 15 minutes, didn't exactly need to be there. They could have just used Agador in the giant fight between the Ice Warriors / Miners, thrown Eckersley in there, and then wrapped up some of the things they started instead of having Thalia get kidnapped.
They needed suspense and action.
Especially with the feminist themes that they were trying to push. I don't understand why they had this happen.
They really needed something to fill 15 minutes.
And they decided not to go with all the things that they ended up dropping. Okay.
The serial just...
sucked. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But also just had a lot of plot lines that they had and didn't resolve and just kind of dropped.
It was bad fictional politics for a lot of it, too. Like we were saying before, Curse of Peladon was fictional politics, too, but it kept it interesting with the intrigue and all of that. And this was just one event after another that had to do with this fictional intergalactic political world that is not very fleshed out and is presumably just introduced here. I guess maybe it has something to do with the Earth/Draconian Empire. Maybe it's vaguely related to that, but it makes the viewer doesn't exactly care about it too much.
Yeah, they didn't. I think the viewer had nothing invested in this serial. Like,
I mean,
if you've seen Curse of Peladon, maybe you did, but they didn't really do a good job of setting up any sort of, like, high stakes for the Doctor, especially since, like, halfway through, Sarah Jane was like, why don't we just leave, Doctor? And the Doctor's like, and leave all my friends to die? How about no, Sarah Jane?
Maybe if you were interested in, like, the political scene with colonialism and everything, back in the 70s, which I mean still existed in many places around the world, you might have had more of a connection with this serial, but watching this in modern times, I don't think we do.
Not at all. And, well, even if you did have a connection to it, I think you'd just be turned off to how poorly this serial tries to execute it. Because...
yeah, just from a story point of view, it wasn't very compelling.
It was definitely the weakest serial in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, we're coming off of season 9 and 10, which were both pretty much universally good.
Yeah, last serial was pretty mediocre too. So hopefully this isn't a trend because the third Doctor's final serial is next. So hopefully that raises the bar a little bit.
Well, the next serial is being written by the guy who's written The Daemons and then Time Monster and then Green Death. So they kind of he just writes all of the series finales except for Silurians, I guess, which was Malcolm Hogg. Silurians was the last one of that season, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So
No.
It went Spearhead
Inferno.
Was Inferno lost? It went Spearhead from Space.
Silurians was after that.
Oh, Ambassadors of Death, Inferno. I was thinking about this last night. I think the show is just getting tired, to be honest.
Well, we're about to replace the Doctor, so hopefully that'll bring a breath of fresh air to the show.
Every time before that the show was kind of getting tired, they had some sort of change of regime or change of formula. But I think... well, I mean, because it was like, when the show started getting tired in the first Doctor's era, Susan got written out and like, oh boy, now companions can go out. And then when it started getting tired again, and the first Doctor goes out. And then as Base Under Siege is about to get tired, we get a whole new entire formula with season 6.
Second Doctor went out too early.
And then the third Doctor, and then, as that's getting tiring, then we get the third Doctor, and now we haven't really had a change I mean, Joe went out, but, like, that wasn't really a massive change, because they introduced a companion that just really felt like the natural progression of what Joe was about to become.
Yeah, she really just feels like better Joe. But hopefully we'll get sort of a switch up. Presumably we will, and presumably the fourth Doctor isn't just going to be exactly the same as the third.
Yeah, I highly doubt that, considering how different the third was from the second, how different the second was from the first.
And how different I hear the third is just from all of them.
They're all, I mean, super different. Like, the sixth is just kind of a joke for most of his first serial.
So he's basically like the third.
Except, like, on steroids. Because they wanted to do this character development where the Sixth was going to start as a complete and utter unlikable fool, and he would develop into this warm, lovable fuzzy teddy bear, except he got written out before any of that happened. So at least we have the audio dramas where he's like apparently sort of good. So email us at thedoctor@decadentvegetable.com. Are you one of the 10 people on the planet who absolutely loves Monster of Peladon? Let us know. Or if you just have questions, comments, concerns, love letters, angry rants, etc., 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 the usual stuff, check us out on YouTube at Trust Your Doctor, and check us out on iTunes at Trust Your Doctor. Remember to check out our new podcast, Triple Play, which has released both episode 0 and episode 1 since the previous episode of Trust Your Doctor went out, so
Yes.
go ahead and find that. It's on our website, on the front page actually, at decorativvegetable.com. It's like right there.
Yeah, you can find that through all of our outlets, obviously. Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Check us out also on Twitter, Trust Your Doctor, TYD Podcast. And next week, we watch the Third Doctor's final serial, Planet of the Spiders, and it couldn't have come soon enough. But until then, the end.